And we're live with the VUCA Fit podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. I've got my co-host, Jose Bolaños, and we're going to talk about something that is, you may not necessarily know it, you may not intentionally do it, but it's probably something that you've done your entire life, and that is iterating in life and in business. You know, a lot of people don't know that I used to be a startup mentor. I used to invest in early stage startups as part of an incubator, and part of our curriculum, 6 months that these businesses would be with us, was that we would teach them to do little micro experiments, get feedback, do more of what works, less of what doesn't. And so that's going to be what today's conversation is about. We're going to talk about it, particularly as it relates to a project that Jose and I are knee deep in, more so Jose, because he's the primary author, which is book. So Jose, I missed you last week. It's been 2 weeks since we've recorded together.
2 weeks?
Yeah, you ditched me 1 week because you were on vacation. Last week I was racing my car with my team.
How come you don't call yours ditching? How come you call mine ditching, but yours isn't ditching?
Because I'm the meeting holder. I'm the guy who owns the meeting, who set it up. So it's ditching when you don't show up, but because I'm the organizer, it's not ditching when I don't show up. It's a double standard, my friend.
You've never ditched on me.
No, not once. Dude, yeah. I just reschedule. Like today, I was like, hey, can you move up?
Oh, that's hilarious.
How you been, man?
I a lot there. I've been good, man. Good.
Yeah, you look good.
Iterating. I've been iterating.
You've been Joseing and iterating on the Joseing?
Joseing and iterating and Joseing some more and figuring out how to Jose better. Yeah. Perfecting the art of Joseing.
This should be the name of the book. The Art of Joseing.
Yeah. No, but yeah. Should be the title of some book. The Way of Jose. That's the way. The Way of Jose.
The Way of Jose.
That's the book that's going to be written. The Way
that's going to be your last book.
That's good. That's a pretty good title. It's like, I think people will be like, what? Yeah.
What is that? How to Jose? Jose 101. All right.
I like that you propose this topic on iteration, especially around the book that we're writing. But I like to first approach it with another project that I did where I actually had a significant insight about iterating.
Okay.
And it was building a puzzle, a 1,000-piece puzzle that I got into. So the big realization that I had around this puzzle is that when I started building it, I took all the pieces out. And I'm like, where do I start? And they always tell you start with the outside, right? But the interesting thing is that then I would come up with a different strategy. So bear with me here. I got the frame on the outside, and then I'm like, okay, now what do I do? And I'm like, I'm going to do a certain color. So I would start doing a certain color. But each strategy that I implemented gave me progress. With each strategy, I would progress. I would move forward. And I would get excited about, oh yeah, now I figured it out. I got this. Bam, bam, bam. I would get my dopamine hits from the pieces falling together. And then it just got harder and harder until I got stuck again. I was like, fuck, this strategy isn't working for me anymore. I got stuck and I'd get frustrated. And I would leave it alone, not because, I would just say, I can't deal with this anymore. And then as I'm walking around, it was on the dinner table and I'm walking around it and I'm coming, it might be the next day or at another moment, I would suddenly say, what if I try this strategy now? And I would decide on a new strategy and it would give me progress. I would start making progress again and bam, 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 bam. And then I would be in the same place. It would be stuck and the strategy would run its course. So then I was like, I actually saw the whole context of this for myself around the puzzle. I was like, okay, a strategy will get me so far. So this is a game of actually coming up with different strategies that will work until they don't. And then I have to try something else. So I actually saw it from a higher view of this isn't about figuring out the right strategy. This is about figuring out different strategies, making progress, and then figuring out another creative way to do this that will help me make progress. And that really got me through the entire puzzle. But it was very insightful.
Yeah.
Now, if we come back to the book, it's been the same. It's like, oh, we're going to write it like this, and I make progress until I'm stuck on it. And I can't figure it out. Now, truth be told, I've taken months in between one strategy and the next.
But that's okay, because I've had to marinate on it too. As I reviewed the manuscript, I'm like, all right, I don't know how I feel about this. I gotta let it sit and percolate in your head. So it's the creative act.
It's the creative act,
or the process.
Come up with something else. But the thing is that if you leave it alone and you interact with other stuff, that other stuff gives you insight. So, I mean, my last progress in the book was actually reading another book that's written in a format. And I'm like, what if I apply this format to the book? And so I immediately, the format was just short chapters, just one idea. It doesn't matter if it's a page long, a paragraph long, 3 pages long. And I started dividing. It went from having, I think it was 10 chapters, and the number 10, I didn't even know what I was going to write for it, to 32 chapters. In a day, I mapped out all the ideas, and I still have room for more. It's like, now I can, I had an idea that I didn't know how I was going to plug it in. Now I know how I can plug it in, because I can just plug it in. It doesn't have to connect to anything else. It can just be one idea on its own, but it's going to add value to the entire thing. So now I'm excited again, and I'm making progress again. And I'm actually reading things in the book that I'm like, this doesn't belong here. This actually belongs on its own, or under this idea, under this chapter. But again, it's the act of giving you space to iterate. And Brian Holiday's book that we talked about in our last conversation made me feel good about the whole process, because you could bring judgment. I've been like, well, am I procrastinating? Am I wasting Kevin's time? Am I not caring? Is this a failure? But it's like, when I read his book, it's like, no, that's the word, dude. This is the word.
I read it too. The Perennial Seller is the book that we're talking about, everybody. If you're an artist, particularly if you're an author, it's a great book, because the creative act is not linear, or the creative process isn't linear.
Yeah.
I think this is why it takes. Remember how it took Guns N' Roses forever to come out with the Spaghetti Incident album? Do you remember that?
I don't remember. No.
So it was a follow-up to their Use Your Illusion albums back when they were still a good band. And Spaghetti Incident was a disastrous album, in my opinion, but it was this rumored album forever. And it's like, man, they're just never going to ship this album. This album's never going to happen. This is just never going to see the light of day. And it did. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. There's something there, but they were working through that process, which probably also involves stepping away from the project for a while and giving it time to discern what the next steps are and what the next iteration is going to be.
It's interesting. Today I shared a reel on an interview with Rick Rubin. I'm not talented at any instrument. I don't sing. I don't know about technology. So why the hell do they pay you? He's like, I just have a good opinion, and I have a good sense for good ideas, and I consult. I give my opinion and my ideas, and it frees. He knows more about the creative act in itself, about what's being created. I mean, he was talking about System of a Down when they were stuck on a part, and they're like, bro, just get the Bible, open it up and see what comes up. And he opened up the Bible, and that's one of the greatest parts of the song. I think it's Chop Suey. Is that part where he's like talking to God, and it's a quote straight out of the Bible, and it's like the iconic line of the song. It came from just being stuck, and this guy saying, open the Bible and see what comes up. And he opened it, and there it was.
That's
so it's
so
giving
cool.
yourself some space for the creative act and you can apply it to writing a book.
Mhm.
You can also apply it to creating a product or a service.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going through that right now with the factory. I mean, and I'll just say it out loud. I mean, it's been a 10-month process so far, where it's like, you start maybe try to test something, see how it lands, get feedback, or write something and then step away from it for a couple weeks and come back to it and be like, no, this is trash, or hey, this is really good. Even today, I kind of took everything we've been doing and distilled it down into, a 6 or 7 page document because a group of investors is curious about, referring deals to us, right? And they're like, hey, do you have something that can talk about what you guys are while your website's being built? And I assembled these pieces and I was taking work product even back from like January and February, like, all right, that's good. All right. Oh, this was good. Kind of like the puzzle. And then I put it together. I'm like, oh, here are the case studies and the work we've done over the years, and put it into a congruent package. And I was like, actually, even though I put this together in about 6 hours, it represents the past decade of my life in terms of work.
Yeah.
And it's really, really cool to be able to do that. But it wasn't this, I couldn't have done that in December when it started like, hey, we're going to do version 2 of the company for our 10-year anniversary. So I get it, man.
It's the same thing with VUCA Fit. It's the same thing with VUCA Fit.
Absolutely. 100%.
We push.
Yep.
Then we get stuck.
Yeah.
We focus on something else. I mean, you come back and say this, and then at one point it could all come together, and then, wow, here it is.
Yeah.
Trust the process, that creative process.
Trust it. Yeah, you gotta trust it.
I'm reading multiple books right now that I'm listening to one.
What are you reading right now?
The Science of Complexity.
Ooh, I've never heard that.
Like an 18-hour book. And it's on complexity, and he's talking about, it's a story about an economist, very smart man in the 60s, proposing a different way to approach autonomy, less scientific, more kind of organic, and taking into account complexity, and he's being challenged, and he's introducing the concept of incremental returns. Is that what it's called? Incremental returns?
Maybe, I don't know. Keep going. I've never heard of incremental returns.
Incremental returns is basically those who have will have more, and those who get will get more. So it's basically, Silicon Valley gets more people coming to Silicon Valley because they already have. And since they already have, they get more. So it's an incremental return. Those who already have money and leverage get more because they already have. But it's opposite. Decreasing returns.
Decreasing, yeah.
Decreasing returns would also be true. Those who lose keep on losing. And he's just
Born losers keep losing.
And he's just talking about, how things work. It's basically how things unfold. That the economy doesn't always pick the most optimal and efficient idea. It's just the one that gets chosen by everybody. And so he tries to give examples like gasoline probably isn't the most efficient way to run everything. There's probably maybe more efficient ways, but it's the one that's got chosen by everybody. So the solutions that we choose aren't always the best, the most optimal, and the most efficient, which is actually what economy in the past would have, the most efficient product, the most efficient solution is the one that's going to get chosen. It's like, no, something else can be chosen. And it's not the most optimal. Yep. It became the most popular, and that's the one that got chosen. We just tied ourselves to it. Talks about the typewriter and the way the letters are laid out. It's like, you ain't changing this shit, man.
QWERTY. You're not changing it.
QWERTY. Yeah, you're not changing it.
No.
What's it? Yeah, he talks about that, about those 5 letters, and how people have actually introduced more efficient ways of typewriting. Not happening, man.
Adopted. Trains left the station. We're too deep. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a fascinating book that I'm diving into. I'm fascinated by complexity, the unfolding, the live-to-fail experiment. But he talks about feedback. He talks about the feedback loop. It talks about things that work, increment, things that don't, they start decreasing. And that's basically what we do as business leaders, especially as entrepreneurs. And I would even dare say that, because you use this a lot in startups. Startups actually talk a lot about this.
It's lean startup methodology 101. I mean, it really is. Yeah.
But I believe that companies that lose this ability, that forget this adaptability and this ability, actually run the risk of failing, of losing.
Yeah, like being like Kodak, or anybody, any of these like failed companies that just maybe dismissed how things were changing, or like, nah, we got it. We're number one. AOL. Let's use that as an example. I mean, there's just so many of those. That if they don't,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say they don't experiment, they don't iterate, they don't improve their business model. They're just say we've been around for 100 years and we're number one, blah, blah, blah. It's like, nah, actually history is littered with companies that thought that way, that they weren't innovative, they weren't iterating, they weren't learning from their losses. They continue to water dead plants. So my motivation app a lot of times will put that saying on my watch, say stop watering or don't water dead plants. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Something's not working. Andrea Oldham my wife, she will always bring this to me as the entrepreneur, like probably when I'm at my lowest low. Yeah, I've had a couple of those in the past decade of kind of imploding mentally. And she always says that my superpower is, of course, correcting. She's like, I think she wants to say, hey, you're not really great at too many things. But one of the things that you are really good at, and one of my superpowers, is when I realize that something is like dead in the water, is to be like, all right, this is dead. We need to learn from it and move forward. We need to iterate. We need to learn from that experiment and move forward. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs, actually, just a lot of humans don't have that ability. They'll keep going after sunk costs and keep, not let go of something because they're so committed, they're so invested in it. And it's like, no, man, this is a dead end, or this is not the street that you want to take. This is a street with a lot of crime on it. You want to be out in the suburbs where there's not a lot of crime. You want to be in this other street, or you want to be on the highway and you're on the sidewalk. I've seen it so many times in life, man. You
got to be able to see patterns. You got to be able to see the pattern recognition, feedback. It's interesting, I launched a program in Spanish, and I'm always observing the reaction of the entire context of it. And I changed the name, and it's doing better. And then I'm doing it. It's iterate. Yeah. Have clarity of where you want to go and iterate. Don't be afraid to let go and just jump on the next thing that you feel is working and see where it takes you. And that, to me, is the path to great work, which we talked about before. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen. What's the path to great work? Yes. Enthusiasm, curiosity, iteration. I think iteration is the path to great work, and enjoying the iteration and understanding that that's it. And what works now isn't gonna keep on working. It could work for a month and then it's obsolete. You gotta iterate. Yeah. And that's what you gotta be good at.
You have to be.
Yeah,
if you're not, you're just going to be
course correcting.
Seth Godin wrote a book about this called The Dip. It's a very short book. It's called The Dip. It's like when to know when to throw in, give up, throw in the towel, whatever you want to call it, and when not to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through this. And if I had a whiteboard, I would show the J curve, because when we're talking about, for those people who don't know, I'm a certified exit planning advisor. It means that I help people build the value of their business prior to sale, usually 3 to 4 years. And we have what's called a J curve when we're taking people through the process. They start out very, very high and they're excited about it, but then they'll actually dip below the enthusiasm line. Like maybe if we met them and here's their line of their enthusiasm, we might get them super excited about, making millions and millions of dollars more when they sell their business. Like who wouldn't be excited about that? But then they start doing the work and they realize how painful it is. And so they start like getting below the baseline where they were when we met them. And my job as a CEPA is knowing that is going to happen and pushing them through that trough as quick as possible, because the fruits are there. There's a process. The process sucks sometimes. You just want to get through the suck as quickly as possible. so that you don't give up.
My goal, I believe it's, the goal is to be like an artist. And Naval Ravikant, in the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, they say, doing the work for the sake of the work, for the work's sake. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it was. An artist does the work for the sake of the work. He talks about him making more money in retirement than before he retired. Why? Because he didn't have any expectations. He was just doing the stuff because he was being asked to do it and he was enjoying it. And now they didn't have any pressure on him. He was just doing the work for the work's sake, and he was doing amazing. And how can we do that?
Your zone of genius. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say that's when you're in your zone of genius, like when you're doing the work for the work's sake, and it's maybe not getting immediate return, but you're doing it because it feels congruent with who you are.
Congruent with who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and can you accomplish that without being necessarily in retirement? Can you work in that way when there's so many people in survival mode, and in survival mode, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's only going to be in your thriving mode, in your openness and curiosity and enthusiasm and giving your talents and your gifts. I'm also reading The Way of the Superior Man, and there's a quote in there. The error of man is to think if I work hard enough, long enough, then I'll get to that place where I want to be, where I can rest. Or I'll do this for now, so then I can do what I want to do in the future. Or if I work enough, it's all going to be complete. He also goes on and says, if my woman figures something out soon, she'll stop complaining and giving me shit, but that's not gonna. Bottom line is it's not gonna happen. I mean, the whole goal is he says the goal is to, while you're alive, to tussle and play and make love to the present moment, giving your unique gifts. That's basically it, man.
Yeah, I mean, because we go back to a core tenet that we believe that we know. We don't believe it, we know it. Die empty. Right?
Die empty.
Like, do not push off what could be done today if it's important to you, because tomorrow is absolutely, categorically not guaranteed, and you have a 100% chance of dying.
Yeah.
There you go.
But dying empty also means not doing anything.
Even not, it could be whatever it means for you. Everybody's got a totally different.
What does it mean today?
Totally different.
Yeah. Somebody wrote on Facebook, if you're tired, keep on doing it tired. And part of me was like, wait a minute, if you're tired,
take a nap.
Take a nap.
Go to bed. Go to bed. Yeah.
Get some rest.
Yeah. If you're tired, sleep. That's my day antidote. I slept like half the day on Monday.
There you did, but you died empty.
Yeah, I slept till like 10:30 in the morning because I'd been, got home and in bed till like around 1 after our race this weekend. And then I went to bed at 9:30 at night. And I was like, my goodness, I had the shortest day I've had in probably years, from a sleep thing, because I needed it. It was like the most important thing I could do was not go to the office and try and grind it out at 50%. The most important thing I could do for myself and my family and my employees and my clients was sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep. I think that's what dying empty meant for me.
Yeah. So I guess the bottom line here is to create great work, create that vision, put that puzzle together, is iterate the creative process, implement strategies. When they stop working, think of new ones, give yourself a chance, stop, get away from the work for a while and then come back. Interact with other things. I mean, interacting with other coaches and mentors and people and books and work, interacting with other people's work really gives you insight that you can bring back to the table and implement and make more progress again. And understand that that's an infinite process. It's not going to end. You're not going to get to a place where, okay, we're done.
Yep. And that's it.
That's it.
That's a wrap, y'all. It's just a headline here. I wrote a personal letter to our listeners at VUCAfit.com. You're going to read about why I am involved in this project, my experience working with Jose, and I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse at the end of it, which is you can, neither one of us is wearing it right now, but you can get his masterclass, learn how to be unbreakable. It's about an hour and a half long. It's not super long, not a huge commitment. And the shirt, like $20. So like we make nothing on it by the time it gets printed and shipped to you. We just want more people to benefit from Jose's training. So I would invite you to go do that. If you don't want to do that and you want to scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a button that says free resources. You can get some free stuff too. So we're happy that you joined us. We've got just one final ask for you, which is if you got any value out of today's conversation, we'd love it if you left a review and subscribe. Till next week, Kevin, he's Jose. We appreciate you. Have a phenomenal week and be well.